On June 6, 1944, as Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy, a secret army, invisible to the naked eye and unknown to even most high-ranking officers, was deployed. They didn't carry rifles or wear uniforms. Their weapons were deception, and their battlefield, the human mind. Their mission? To convince Adolf Hitler and his generals that the largest amphibious invasion in history was coming, but not where it truly was. How did this clandestine group of artists, magicians, and intelligence agents achieve one of the greatest deceptions of World War II, literally changing the course of history? To understand this audacious plan, we must first transport ourselves back to the grim realities of early 1944. The Western Allies, after years of preparation, were finally ready to launch Operation Overlord, the cross-channel invasion that promised to open a second front against Nazi Germany. But the challenges were monumental. Germany possessed formidable defenses along the Atlantic Wall, and its strategic reserves, particularly the elite panzer divisions, were a constant threat. The success of Overlord hinged not just on overwhelming force, but on surprise. The Germans knew an invasion was coming. The critical question was where. This is where Operation Fortitude, the brainchild of British intelligence, stepped in. Fortitude was not a single tactic, but a vast, intricate tapestry of lies designed to mislead the German High Command about the location and scale of the Allied invasion. The target? Hitler himself, whose personal involvement in military decisions made him both a vulnerability and an opportunity for deception. The underlying principle was simple. If you can control what the enemy believes, you can control what the enemy does. Fortitude was split into two main components: Fortitude North and Fortitude South. Fortitude North aimed to convince the Germans that a powerful invasion force was gathering in Scotland, poised to strike Norway. This was crucial because Norway, rich in natural resources and strategically important, tied up significant German forces that could otherwise have reinforced France. To achieve this, a fictitious Fourth Army was created, complete with fake radio traffic, imaginary troop movements, and even dummy landing craft visible from reconnaissance planes. Imagine the sheer effort required to maintain this illusion over months. But the real masterpiece of deception was Fortitude South, focused on the Pas-de-Calais. The Pas-de-Calais, the shortest distance between England and France, was the logical invasion point, a fact the Germans firmly believed. Fortitude South meticulously reinforced this belief. The Allies created the first U.S. Army group, FUSAG, a phantom army supposedly commanded by the charismatic General George S. Patton, a figure the Germans both respected and feared. This phantom army was given an entire backstory, a detailed order of battle, and even its own camp facilities. Miles of inflatable tanks, trucks and artillery pieces, rubber replicas designed by Hollywood set designers and special effects artists were deployed across southeastern England. Canvas and plywood landing craft lined beaches. Fake airfields sprang up. Day and night, military engineers worked under strict secrecy, inflating these monstrous props, moving them around to simulate activity, and even playing recordings of tank engines and marching troops to fool German reconnaissance flights and listening posts. Radio operators meticulously generated mountains of fake radio traffic, mimicking the communications of a massive, active army. These signals were deliberately made just strong enough for German intelligence to intercept, but scrambled enough to create an air of authenticity. Double agents also played a critical role. Many German spies operating in Britain had been turned by MI5 and were now relaying expertly crafted misinformation back to their Abwehr handlers in Berlin. These agents, collectively known as the double-cross system, provided seemingly credible confirmation of the invasion plans for Pas-de-Calais, adding a layer of realism that no amount of fake tanks could achieve alone. These double agents would confirm troop deployments, report on the advanced training of new divisions, and even speculate about Patton's anticipated invasion strategy. The deception was so elaborate and so pervasive that it infiltrated every level of German intelligence, cementing their conviction that the real invasion would bypass Normandy entirely. General Alfred Jodl, chief of operations for the German High Command, was entirely convinced. Hitler himself signed off on this assessment, ignoring intelligence that pointed towards Normandy. The sheer scale and meticulous detail of the deception were unprecedented, a testament to the power of coordinated psychological warfare. The critical moment arrived on D-Day itself, June 6, 1944. As tens of thousands of Allied troops landed on the beaches of Normandy, the German High Command remained stubbornly convinced that this was merely a diversion, a feint before the real invasion at Pas-de-Calais. Reports from the Normandy front were initially dismissed as localized attacks. Hitler, who famously slept through the initial hours of the invasion, refused to release the crucial Panzer Reserve divisions, forces that could have potentially repelled the Allied landings and pushed them back into the sea. His reasoning was simple. He believed Patton's Phantom Army was still waiting for the opportune moment to strike at Calais. He kept the 15th Army, nearly 250,000 strong, garrisoned in the Pas-de-Calais, anticipating an attack that would never come. For days, and even weeks after D-Day, the German High Command continued to fixate on the fictional fusag. Even as the Allied beachheads in Normandy solidified and expanded, German intelligence reports flowed in, consistently reinforcing the belief that the main thrust was yet to come. Patton himself, a master of theatrics, played his part brilliantly, making highly publicized, though carefully controlled, appearances in southeastern England, further fueling the illusion. The German intelligence apparatus was completely paralyzed by the sheer brilliance of the deception. They had been fed exactly what they wanted to believe, confirming their preconceived notions, making it nearly impossible for them to accept the truth of Normandy. This critical delay allowed the Allies to establish a secure foothold, bring in reinforcements, and begin their arduous push inland. Without this crucial window of opportunity, the invasion could have been driven back, with catastrophic consequences. Operation Fortitude stands as one of the most successful and ingenious deception campaigns in military history. It saved countless Allied lives and provided the vital strategic advantage needed to secure the foothold in France. The legacy of Fortitude teaches us an invaluable lesson about the often underestimated power of perception and information in warfare. It wasn't about brute force. It was about outsmarting the enemy, manipulating their beliefs, and exploiting their assumptions. The artists, the radio operators, the engineers, the double agents, this invisible army, far from the front lines, played as crucial a role in the liberation of Europe as any soldier with a rifle. Their silent war of wits and illusions undeniably changed the course of history, proving that sometimes the most powerful weapon in a conflict is not a bullet, but a well-crafted lie.